I knew she was trouble the moment she walked through that door. Beautiful, deadly, eyes that promised dangerous delights and pay at the end. Legs all the way up to here, clad in a slinky black dress. But I just had a triple B. The beefy bean blast burrito. That's 4 B's. Oh no. Hello there everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, here to bring you a brand new class guide for 1st edition Pathfinder. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Investigator. It's Elemental, dear Wilson, Elemental. But this is going to be a very interesting class because it combines features and traits of at least a couple other classes. What springs to mind in particular is Rogue and Alchemist, and for obvious reasons that you'll see later on, but that does make for a very, very useful class that has quite a bit of flexibility to it depending on what you want to build. So today we're going to be taking a look at what is going to be a generally effective build. It's not going to be the most broken, beat all comers kind of build, but it's still going to see you through and give you an idea of how the class works and ways to kind of play around with what you want to build with this. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. Now then, let's go ahead and start getting into this here. So, as with anything, we're going to take a look at your ancestry, or your race if you prefer to call it that, and any class would be bereft without having that standard baseline. I am, of course, talking about humans. They get a +2 to any stat, meaning you can allocate it to exactly where you need it. An extra feat, an extra skill point at 1st level and every level thereafter. This is going to be a very skill-hungry class, and it's another class that's going to be hungry for feats as well. So this is going to be just absolutely beneficial to you. The only real hindrance here is that you're missing out on low light vision or dark vision, unless you want to start swapping out traits, but that gets to be a little bit tricky. For your favorite class bonus, you can add 1 extract formula 1 level below the highest you can use from the formula list to your book. So that in and of itself is going to be very handy, although not all the extract formulas are equal to one another, but even still, this is still a nice benefit to have. Gives you much more flexibility with how you can make the class function. Next, we have the Elf. This gives a +2 to dexterity and intelligence, which you'll see are stats that we really want to focus on. But you do take a -2 penalty to your constitution score, and that's unfortunate because this is a class that is definitely meant to get mixed into the thick of melee. But you will be immune to sleep and sleep-like effects, +2 racial bonus to save versus enchantment spells and effects, +2 racial bonus to perception, the most rolled skill in the game, caster level checks to pierce spell resistance, and spellcraft to identify magic items, as well as getting the aforementioned low light vision that humans are missing out on. For their favorite class bonus, you can increase your inspiration pool by 1/3, so 1 for every 3 levels that you select this. That will definitely be very useful. The inspiration pool is hugely important to the functioning of several of your class abilities, one of which definitely is a major impact on combat. All of them can have a major impact on combat, but directly, very directly so, an impact on your combat abilities. Next, we have the Tyling. This gives another +2 to Dex and Intelligence, but takes a -2 penalty to Charisma, which is going to be our dump stat. You also get resistances to cold, electricity, and fire of total of 5. So great thing to have starting out there. Fire resistance and immunity may be one of the most common ones, and it's nice that you get it because, well, there's plenty of monsters and enemy casters out there that love using their fire spells. You also gain a +2 racial bonus on bluff and stealth, 2 very useful skills particularly for you, and once a day you can use darkness as a spell-like ability with a 60-foot dark vision, which is just hugely beneficial to have. Now, for your favorite class bonus, Tieflings don't really have Investigator as a favorite class, so you're going to be taking either the extra hit point or the extra skill rank. Either of them are going to be useful if you wanted to alternate every other level which one you're taking. perfectly fine, perfectly valid, and it will see you through just fine. However, any option that gives bonuses to Dex and Intelligence in particular, or a combination of one of those with Constitution or Strength, will be useful to you. That will be a great benefit because you want the Constitution for your hit points, for your Fortitude saves. Strength is going to help with your ability to deal damage in melee, even though we're not really going to be focusing on it. So definitely is going to be useful to you. But if the selection gives bonuses to those stats and penalizes your charisma, consider not dumping your charisma stats so hard and adjusting points for your stats as needed, because dropping a dump stat too low can make you vulnerable to ability drain attacks, and being reduced to a catatonic state or comatose is going to be a major hindrance. It's going to be death dealing to you and the rest of your party, having somebody dropped that quickly, that easily, if you're hit with it early as part of an opening gambit. Now, moving on from there, we're going to talk about your stats as we are joined by my most adorable co-host, Finn, apprentice storyteller, and uninitiated as yet to any circles of lore, and skipping ahead on the slides, unfortunately enough. So for your stats, you're going to want to follow this general array here. Dexterity and Intelligence are going to be your most important stats at 16 each, followed up by Constitution, which we're dropping a 13 into. Strength is not as prioritized. We only want a 13. We don't need to worry about boosting it really much further from here, unless you end up happily with an item that is able to do that for you and nobody else in the party wants it or needs it. Then Wisdom, we're going to leave at a nice even little 10 there, no bonuses, no penalties. Charisma, we're only dropping down to a 9 for this. This does leave us with an extra point, but really that's not the worst thing in the world. This does assume a 25-point buy for your stats. If you're using fewer points or are rolling for your stats, then you're still going to want to follow this order. This will be beneficial and work out pretty well for you overall. The only one that really kind of sucks is having Constitution at 13, because bumping up to 14 will cost 2 points, and dropping Charisma down any further, it just feels a little bit too risky. I know I've dropped others to 8 before, but the more I play around with it and the more I play around with different, testing out different ability drain effects and different scenarios, the less it seems like a good idea to really go past 8. Now, moving on from there to your trait selection. Traits are they're just so good. And so you really want to explore and look around here. But these 4 should suit you just fine, unless you really want to use something else. First is Student of Philosophy. Use your Intelligence modifier in place of your Charisma on Diplomacy to persuade others and Bluff to convince others a lie is true. No effect on fainting or gather information in these cases. It's just purely for those particular skill checks. But that's useful enough, and this makes it possible for a skill-heavy class like the Investigator to operate as a face while boosting their Intelligence score, which affects their skill ranks per level. So it really gels and comes together very nicely, very effectively. Great use of one of your traits. Next is Bruising Intellect. Use your Intelligence in place of Charisma for your Intimidate skill, which is also very useful. Though it's not as, I would say, it ranks behind Student of Philosophy in terms of all of this. This is just, it's good, it's effective, and it can fit with a lot of different kinds of builds, motifs, or whatever kind of character theme you're going for with your Investigator. Next is Reactionary. It's good for just about any class. This is a +2 trait bonus to your initiative score, and having your initiative boosted, letting yourself go sooner in the turn order is going to be very useful, especially if you can outpace an enemy spellcaster. Lastly, we have Pragmatic Activator. Use your Intelligence instead of Charisma for Use Magic Device. Now, you do have a mix of spells, both Arcane and Divine, as part of your list, but still having room to be able to make use of other things that are not necessarily on your list, that are outside your ability to cast, can still be pretty useful. But this is very much a lower priority thing in comparison to the other 3, but still, nice idea, going to be pretty useful for you. definitely give it some thought. But that's all we have so far. Next time we're going to be taking a look at skills, possibly class abilities, but given the number of skills available to you, it's probably going to be limited to just that. But what do you think? Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below and we'll engage in discussion. And remember, if you've made it this far and you're new here to the channel, why not go down there, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den and join that roster of legendary heroes. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. That has been my mischievous little co-host, Finnegan, over there, causing all kinds of mayhem that I'm going to have to go fix in a moment. Thank you all so very much for your time. Good gaming to you all. And you all have yourselves a good night.